So moving into just maybe to introduce ourselves a little bit first. Why is my slide not working? It is. Just a little intro on Pro Strategy. So we've been around for over 30 years and, working with a lot of customers, and we'll see some of those on the next page. Working in projects that can be pretty small up to ones that can be pretty big, multi-year in nature, with customers like Primark or Selfridges. And also, I think a key piece of the business here, and it's particularly relevant to this particular conversation or webinar, is there's two sides to our business. There's the BI or analytics side, and there's also the CRM and ERP side. Within the context of this webinar, we're talking about Power BI over Nav, and that makes it, I suppose, it's very important from our capability to deliver, because we have Nav engineering teams and Power BI engineering teams. It allows us to kind of literally go upstairs or downstairs and work together and collaborate on bringing those two tool sets together to deliver the products like the one we're going to see in a minute. So in terms of customers, this should give you a quick feel for some of the people that you work with. As I said earlier on, the Primark, the Selfridges, but also, your Largo Foods, who are now rebranding to Tato Foods, I believe, 151, Unilever, Rob Roberts, so on and so forth. So in terms of Power BI itself, what is Power BI? For those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's a Microsoft product, and it's being pushed and I suppose invested in very, very heavily by Microsoft. They're investing a lot in the AI capability within there, but also in the platform itself. It's very visual, and it's great in terms of, providing a visual insight into the performance of a particular aspect of your business, whether it's sales, finance, customer service, and literally drill right down into the detail. And I think, if you just simply go to Power BI, you can see there the value from an analyst perspective, the developers, and also from an IT perspective as well, how it kind of meets the needs of those different functions within the organization. In terms of its positioning, the Gartner Report just came out actually this month. And actually, Microsoft was the leader in any case last year and the year prior, and it has been for the last decade, but it's starting to move further away from all of the others. Last year, even Tableau would have been closer to Microsoft, and Click is starting to move out of that leader space, and I suspect next year might be gone from there. And they're just growing the gap, and I think that's because they're investing so heavily in the platform, particularly as it integrates with, Nav and CRM and the other Office, Business Central and Office 365 products. So one of the things I want to talk about very quickly is the power of the data model. And this is central to all of the products that we develop in this space. And even though I know we're talking about finance today, I'm just going to use a sales example to talk about the model. So if you imagine sales at its most basic level, from a product sales perspective, you'll have sales revenue, units, cost, and margin will be a percentage. And from sales, you'll have, product and product categories, customer and customer attributes and details, and time, which is really important. And with something like Power BI, you can augment or extend that model with time intelligence capability. So that starts to get you into things like year to date last year. As measures, you can simply drag and drop. And that makes it very, very powerful. So whether it's sales, purchasing, or finance, a well-designed model that's somewhat abstracted from the underlying system like Nav or CRM, that's made easy to use and builds in the business logic. This is where I suppose we spend a lot of the time on these particular products is getting the IP in place to make these models easy to use, build the reports and dashboards on, because with something like an accelerator, we don't want to walk away having simply installed, a sales or a finance or an age debt accelerator. we want you to be able to take it and grow it in a self-service manner. That's why I suppose I'm kind of going on a little bit about the models, because they're a key component of this. So in terms of an architecture, and I'll move quickly to the demo now, this is what a typical Power BI architecture looks like. So, if your Dynamics is on-prem, you have a gateway which facilitates the movement of data into the Power BI service in a secure manner, but also allows you to connect to maybe Excel. And what we've noticed with a lot of customers, whether it be finance or sales, is I would say more than 50%, probably 60 or 70%, tend to do their budgeting and their planning outside of Nav. So it's sitting in some sort of an Excel document. So there often is a need to bring that in. And maybe there's some other third-party information. For the sake of variety, I put in Salesforce. This could be weather, this could be anything. It's brought together using the Power BI service and then published out to be consumed on mobile or desktop devices. So in terms of the Nav Finance Accelerator, you can read these, but the whole point of this is to give you time back. It's to make answering questions easy, and it's to present information, I suppose, in and out of the box way. You plug in the accelerator. Obviously, it has to be configured for each customer to take into account the nuances of your Nav setup, but this is a matter of days. And then you've got those out-of-the-box insights, reports and dashboards, which can be extended and give you that sort of live insight into your business. So without talking any more, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make John a presenter, if I can find you in the list here, John. And John is going to actually do the demo itself. So John, you should have the presenting capability there now. So here we go. So if you have any questions for me, happy to answer them now, or else I'll hand over to John.
Can we do this in
Okay, that's great. John, it's over to you.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yep, okay, that's fine. I presume everyone can see my screen, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, with that we'll begin. So this is kind of our first offering, the profit and loss statement. So we've got an overview here of your account level 4. Anyone within finance will be familiar with the cost sales revenue. So this is your first overview. It's kind of we've set it up with 2 different metrics. Percentage difference. We can compare it versus budget, and then you can quickly switch versus last year. And again, these are all configurable to any different number of metrics. You could have 10 different, let's say, controls there, depending on your company needs. And again, we just kind of have a quick flick between financial years, right up to your year to date. For the purposes of this demo, we're just using by month, but again, you can split it by quarter, by financial year end, financial quarter. Again, this is kind of very company specific. Everything from the way you kind of out or display your own profit and loss, from kind of totals and subtotals will be different from company to company, but it's very customizable within Power BI. I suppose from here then you can kind of drill through in your cost of sales and just kind of get a better idea of what actually they are at the lower account level. And from here then we've just kind of done, for the purpose of them, we've kept it simple. We've got your actuals versus your budget, so you can keep an eye on the trend line and see what's exceeding, and then just some conditional formatting. What's 110% over budget. And again, in this field, we've just displayed the actual figure for budget, the percentage difference, and similarly last year actuals versus current. And again, if you can examine it further and drill through to month, and it's all very easy. It's, you know, and if you're looking and kind of do this similar in Excel, you could have 30 different sheets to do the same, to have the same functionality. And again, it's very easy to kind of customize this and change it when needed. I suppose next steps from here, we plan to kind of drill down, you know, from here right down to an invoice level within Nav. So I suppose there'll be another demo within the next few weeks of that capability.
Yeah, and I think one of the things on that, John, if you want to go back to the main page, is that everyone's nav is different. So this is based on the content of the general ledger. And I think what's important to recognize is that the more information that you keep in the general ledger, the lower level of detail you can have in your P&L. And also that the drill paths could actually vary, because in some cases you might go to you know, a ledger entry table, and another, or detail from a ledger entry table, and in other cases it could be into a journal. So as I said, in what John has demoed here is the accelerator sitting on the GL, and then per customer you would configure those drill paths if people want to go down into a further level of detail. So before we go to age debt, does anybody have any questions on this? Okay, John, do you want to move to the age debt?
All right, so I'll move to age debt, yeah. So a similar setup here. We have our management dashboard. This dashboard is used, or sorry, management dashboard tab. This dashboard is used regularly by our own finance department. So again, at a quick glance, you have debt by 30 days, 60 days, right up to 120 days plus, and what the balances are. Your top 10, we'll say, companies that owe you money, again split by 30, 60, and 90 days. You can see who kind of needs chasing up. And just kind of keep an eye on your.
John, I'm just actually going to mute everyone and unmute you, because we're just getting a bit of background noise. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm just going to start again. So this dashboard is used regularly by our own finance department. It gives you an overview of how your company is performing, and I suppose who owes you what, where you're kind of leaking money. So again, you've got your balances by 30, 60, right up to 120 days plus. And bottom left, you've got top 10 companies by age debt, and it's all, you know, it's all dynamic filtering. The minute you click on it, you just get a view of that company. So how long they owed you, whatever, 150,000 versus, okay, they've owed you 20,000 for 90 days. And then just your kind of debtor days trend line. So obviously you'd want to see this trending in the opposite direction. And just kind of a quick overview of what's the total balance owed. And from there, then you can kind of go down further and get more detail per company. So again, when we look at this age debt review, it's again every company, but it just is just a bit more information as regards kind of the comments. So from an accounts person perspective, this would be referenced based on, okay, they've recently paid an invoice, or such and such called, you know, a check has been sent in the post, etc. So that's kind of very useful. Again, it connects directly into Nav.
So just on that, John, one of the things we discovered, both ourselves, but also working with customers where we've deployed this already, is that they were spending within Nav, like, look, you know, debt collection, age debt is a massive part of the, you know, managing the cash flow of your business, and that the teams were flicking, you know, reports, whether it be Nav or Jet or other data extracts, and then going back into customer cards and going back into invoices. There was a huge amount of in and out of various reports and extracts from Nav. So by kind of working with customers to figure out how to present the information, they were very easily able to, you know, go down through the list, you know, one by one, and clicking into any of them, and then seeing the comments from the customer card, which is where a lot of the customers we've talked with on this and used to provide feedback were entering that type of, I suppose, call it chasing information, right? So very quickly, you click into capacity business, and you should see, or any of those there, and you will see the most recent comments that have been entered into that. So you know what was the last action you took and maybe what's the next one you might need to take as well. So it just quickly allows the admin departments relating to this to kind of cut to the chase in a single screen, take an action or know that actually since last week something's been resolved and I don't need to take it anymore because it's in the post, so to speak. Okay, John, thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, as Owen was saying, it just kind of it makes everything a lot more user friendly and avoids duplication work. So from there, then you can actually drill through and kind of get a better overview of the actual company you're interested in. Right down to kind of the last, would say, 10 or so invoices, how long they're overdue, just a more granular level. And again, from the customer summary, it'll actually show you, one sec, drill through again the customer profile. It'll just kind of show you the balance. It's just another way of looking at it, how much they owed for Q2. What sort of level of payments have they been making? And again, that's filtering, right? And then there was one other tab we added recently. It was just a request.
And just John, while you're doing that locate the customer drill through is great as well. When you're looking at a particular customer, you can start to see the profile. On the management dashboard, we looked at the debtor days, which is your classic kind of financial calculation, and we can do it. Whether it's months or years or days rather, but you want to make sure that your debtor days is tracking in the right direction. But when you look at the customer profile, you can start to see for an individual customer, are they kind of, irrespective of what they owe you at now, but have they increased or decreased their ability to pay, or is the gap between payment receipt and issue of invoice growing or closing? So overall, how are they performing, and is there something that you need to be concerned about?
Yeah, as Owen was saying, this is just another tab I skipped over. Again, it just gives you all your companies. Just a quick, simple way of seeing. Okay, I mean, right up here we've got, dark green is 40,000 is owed for over 120 days. They'd probably be the first person you contact. You want to keep all them down. Sorry, back onto the location. So this is kind of a request from a recent customer. They've got a number of reps using the mobile version. So obviously when they're out on the road, he wanted them to be able to kind of see the age debt by location, so that they could easily kind of call into any company that owes money within their vicinity and just kind of, I suppose, touch base or chase up another invoice. I just saw a comment pop up there. Does Power BI impact Nav? No, everything is loaded directly into memory, so it's fast and it doesn't interfere with any of your own systems. So any questions on age debt?
Do you want to just show how quickly it is to build something from one of these models, John?
Yep, I'll go through that now. So I mean, just I suppose taking this age balance one here, it's very easy. It's just duplicate your report, add in a number of filters here based on, okay, we only want to see who owes us, 50,000, stuff like that. Everything from adding in.
And if you were to go from scratch, John, if you were to create, so imagine we've installed this at a user, and they want to build something from scratch, do their own analysis. You might just show how quick that is.
Sorry, yeah, of course. So this is just a blank report.
Use the demo names.
Yeah. Good point. So I suppose what are we interested in here? Name. I suppose the location one, obviously age balance. Um, you know, we want to look at that as a bar chart. And again, there's numerous kind of quick visualizations here that you can use, and everything can be dragged in. And again, if you want to filter it by date, change that back to a bar chart.
Yeah, or even into the legend, you could put in the days old group into the legend. So by customer, that would give you the breakdown, you know, from how old the debt is as well.
So that breaks it up. And if you want to filter in then and just cut out, we'll say you want to go from everything from 60 to 120 plus, it's just a case adding in a quick filter here on the right hand side.
Thanks, John. So we're coming up on, pretty much getting to the end of the demo in terms of having covered off that kind of P&L view in Power BI and also the age debt. So what we'd like to do is maybe open the floor up to any questions that people might have. It's all very quiet. Surely somebody has a question.
Oh, no, I'm just seeing there, Susan actually had asked a couple of questions.
Yeah.
John answered one of them, but there's another one there about the chart of accounts.
Yes. Yeah, so the chart of accounts, I suppose, that's one of the configurations item you'd have to do, because as within Nav, I suppose everyone configures their own. How they configure their chart of accounts varies. So we would work with the customer to bring that configuration across. So it's reflected in here. So I'm just looking at a question from Dennis. Can the same be done with an on-site Power BI server and Nav on-prem? So Dennis, can I ask, do you have an on-prem Power BI server or do you mean the Nav? I can unmute everyone for this, actually. It might make more sense. Okay, so Dennis, you're unmuted at the moment. You have a Nav Power BI server on-prem, is that right?
How you doing, Owen? I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, yeah.
Great, yeah. So yeah, we have the latest Power BI server on-prem, and our Nav 2016 is also on-prem.
Yeah, so this will work with whether it's Power BI on-prem or Power BI in the cloud, and also whether it's Nav hosted in an Azure VM, and also it doesn't matter, right? It's a flexible architecture. It'll work on-prem or in the cloud for both Nav and for Power BI.
That's brilliant, Owen. I think for ourselves, I personally have an interest in the whole area of budgeting and being able to pull kind of information and GL information out of Navision into some sort of reports for managers and things like that, so they can have real-time views on spend. So that's interesting for us.
Yeah, absolutely. We can set up a follow-up call if you'd like on that.
That'll be great, Owen. Thanks.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I just saw another question. Is this available in the new version of Nav? Absolutely. So this will work with 09 up.
There's a question from Kyle. Can you report P&L per job? Yeah, that's just something we're working on currently. Should be finished in the next week or so, because you'll be able to drill down right down to an invoice level, and again split that by customer, or by job.
Yes. So to answer the question, how real time is the data from Susan? This tends to be configurable to the discretion of the customer. So typically, for a lot of people, for P&L reporting, will kind of report daily. So what happens is there will be, we saw the architecture earlier, so the Power BI can update from Nav up to 8 times a day. But usually P&L tend to work daily. We can do it in real time as well, but I've really not seen, I mean, I've seen people looking at sales data in real time, but not really looking at P&L or aged in real time. So Susan, I mean, what's your real time requirement?
No, it's just somebody mentioned that there was a real time, that they were looking at data in real time. So from that perspective, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, thank you.
I was just asking, because I missed the first part of the presentation.
Oh yeah, no problem.
So that's all I was just saying.
Yeah, so the data
you can schedule them, or you can click a manual refresh then as well, obviously, if you need it.
Yeah,
perfect.
8 times a day isn't kind of sufficient.
And it depends on kind of where in Nav it's coming from as well, and how often you're posting. So it's it's one of those things you kind of you figure out what the requirement is. Like we have in sales, for example, there typically is a higher requirement for real time. So we would often have a nightly, very detailed dive into the business with budgeting and everything else, but then you might have a much lighter piece that updates in real time. So which is maybe focused on, you don't need all of it with the history and everything else. You just need a much smaller, tighter set of data. So it kind of depends, but it can be as real time as it needs to be. Okay. Any other questions? I'm looking at one here. Do you still need the Java reports if you have this? I don't know. This is from Masvita. I don't know what you mean by, do you still need the Java reports? Do you want to explain that a little bit? Yeah, I'm not too sure what was meant by that. Maybe they meant jet reports. I don't know. I'll see if there's any other questions that we've missed.
Sorry, Owen, I think that's a good question though about jet reports. So if you want to.
Yeah, jet reports. So what we've found with customers is jet can be quite strong for, let's call it, robust financial reports. And what I mean by robust is kind of maybe your balance sheet, your trial balance, that type of stuff. And a lot of the time people tend to want to manipulate those out more in Excel. So in that sense, it's not that it isn't a replacement, but jet can be quite strong at that. However, when it comes to stuff like the age debt, like the way we looked at it, and also for the P&L, the way you can drill up and down the hierarchy levels, and the way you can zone in or drill from a higher level of detail to a job or an invoice, jet probably isn't going to be as visually strong or as appealing to somebody. So in that sense, it could be replacing jet, but I would see it as more of a complementary tool set that would appeal to a much wider audience. Dennis, you asked about a replacement for Crystal. Absolutely, this would be very much a replacement for Crystal.
Yeah, so we would historically use Crystal quite a bit, and I suppose they're very much kind of boring data reports. With the whole area of BI being more graphical, I was just wondered, does it still have the capability for the more standard reports with less graphical? Because I want to see if we can start looking at some of those reports and maybe moving them into a Power BI and giving some extra functionality to the end user.
Yeah, so absolutely. So we've worked with a lot of customers where, and I know we focus on the visuals a little bit more here, where we have actually put in a toggle where you can decide to flip from a visual to a detailed review, and that will get you into more of maybe a crosstab type table with the ability to filter or drill down either on rows or columns, apply conditional formatting. So tabular, but with the ability to drill up and down, in and out. Absolutely.
That's good to hear. Yeah, our main systems are our pension systems, and the data is all in SQL. So being able to pull out SQL would be useful.
Yeah, and this will connect right into all of SQL. In this instance, we're talking Nav, but this can connect to, as I said earlier, when I opened it up, a lot of people would have budgeting in Excel, but also, we have customers where it's not just Nav, there's other data, maybe production information that's stored in a SQL database, or maybe staff management, so time management system, where we're extracting it from a SQL database. So we're getting all of that from other systems as well, and combined then into this particular one. So can you drill down on debtor by invoice number? So in the age debtors, yes, you can. I think actually in the drill down we had there, if you go back to the desktop one, And if you drill into any of the details, you're actually getting the invoice number and the project number if it's related to a project, which would be a job, and you're seeing that. That's from James Curran.
Just these tables here. That's how they are. And they're all linked.
So can Power BI facilitate data collection for budget process? No, it's reading out only, Susan. So you're not using this to capture or input data. But what we do with customers is, and we can work with you to create a template around that data capture and feed it into this, so it updates on a timed basis.
Just to answer the second part, the James questionnaire, when you're on the actual workspace online, you can export straight to a PDF or PowerPoint, and it'll actually capture the static data, depending on how you've kind of broken it down and filtered it.
Yeah. The other thing you can do with this as well is you can export from here to Excel. But what you can also do, and this is a very neat feature with the Power BI, because there's a model behind this in the Power BI service, either on-prem or in the cloud. You could actually take an Excel document, and we've worked with this with a number of customers where using Excel capability, Power Query, we connect to the Power BI model, and then we bring the data directly into Excel where it can be manipulated, maybe a little bit more easily, or depending on the customer's needs, than you might do in a Power BI. Because there's always going to be some need to get it into Excel, and that's a great way of taking that governed data set with the business logic applied into Excel for further, analysis or manipulation in a way that you can only do in Excel.
The date, and then it's there. You do your journal, look at it.
I'm just seeing if I can get any more questions. I think we've covered most of those. Any more before we? Okay, perfect. All right, that's great. So what we'll do is, thank you very much for coming on. Hopefully you found this useful. Our marketing team will follow up with a quick note. And if anyone's interested in having a further conversation around this, we'd love to, schedule a call or see you and talk about maybe your specific needs and how you could see yourself using something like this, to gain better insight into your financial performance or your age debt management. And additionally, the other thing I suppose we always like to say to people as well is, if there's something that you don't see here that you would like to see, please let us know, because ultimately we're building this, for our existing and new customers. So we want to keep enhancing and evolving the product, so it's very complete in meeting those needs. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, John. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Owen. Thanks, John.
There will be a recording available as well after this, I suppose.
Absolutely. Yeah. Aileen from marketing will send that out.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
More details.